Remember last week? I think it was what day was it? Maybe it was a couple weeks ago. It was a couple weeks ago. I came on here when ESPN announced Jemele Hill was out. I told you that Jemele Hill was leaving Woke Center, a.k.a. the 6 p.m. Sports Center. And she was going to leave Woke Center. And I told you that a couple of weeks in advance. And then ESPN comes out and says, oh, Jemele Hill is leaving. And I told you then, I said they forced her out. I said they did not want her to continue to be at SportsCenter, and she's going to be forced out of Woke Center. And I told you this was all going to happen. I told you it would probably happen right after the Super Bowl. And lo and behold, her final show is on the Friday before the Super Bowl. And then she goes on Al Sharpton and accuses Donald Trump of racial pornography and all of these things, okay? So what is fascinating about this in general is that Michael Smith now, and a lot of people, Jemele Hill said, oh, there's rumors out there that this wasn't my choice. There is that I was forced out. You know where this is coming from. It's not true. All these things, okay? I told you that she was forced out. Now Michael Smith, her co-host, went public on a podcast from James Andrew Miller, this Origins podcast. He's basically the ESPN official biographer. And Michael Smith went out and said this. What I told you was they changed the show to make it more SportsCenter and less Woke Center. And as a result, he's hosting the show by himself now, but he basically confirmed once more, what do I say? Who gets it right? This guy gets it right. I told you guys this, and of course, I'm right. And this is Michael Smith confirming that they changed the show to force Jemele off of SportsCenter. Here's what he said. There was a time we weren't even talking to each other anymore. Like no more Michael and Jemele, not less. Not here and there. No more Michael and Jemele talking. No more of their commentary. By the way, I love him going third person here like he's fucking Sonny Bono talking about Cher. As if anybody in the grand scheme of things cares about Michael Smith and Jemele Hill. All right? Third person here. No more Michael and Jemele talking. No more of their commentary. It's just strictly live shots and analysis. That's what pissed me off so much. I was like, wait a second. You all acknowledge that one of the strengths we have going for us as a show is Michael and Jemele's chemistry. Michael and Jemele's chemistry. Like he's fucking Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson here. Michael and Jemele's chemistry. But Michael and Jemele don't fucking talk to each other. How does that make sense? These are quotes from Michael Smith. He also said ESPN pushed the panic button. It gave in to critics. And he said his bosses at ESPN weren't built to take the criticism. And then he continued, instead of saying, no, this is the vision for this show. This is what we're doing. This show is about Michael and Jemele and their opinions and their chemistry, and they're going to do SportsCenter their way. Instead of sticking to that vision, we immediately tried to merge two things. It was very frustrating. They got what they wanted, which was Michael and Jemele being muted. Again, third person. And that frustrated the shit out of us. He then said, as I quote, asked how he planned to continue as the solo host on SportsCenter, Smith said he plans, quote, to do the same shit I've been doing for the past 14 years at ESPN. All right, first of all, going third person here is hysterical. But what this is demonstrating is what I told you guys, okay? And first of all, I don't know if ESPN is going to respond to this, but that's pretty aggressive criticism of their bosses and their network. I would think that they got a woke-up call, well said, a woke-up call there. More importantly, this is what I have been telling you. There isn't any basis at all for people out there to consume Woke Center. And in people that I talk to at ESPN, what they believe is that Michael and Jemele got an artificial sense of their significance based on their salary and based on this promotion, and that artificial sense of significance was buoyed by Twitter, which is not an accurate reflection of anything. Although, by the way, how about the stock price today? How about money that I'm making for you guys if you bought Twitter stock and you bought WWE on absolute fire? But they just happened to have a show, which was on, Michael and Jemele did, right after First Take. And First Take had developed a big audience with Stephen A. and Skip. Whether you like Stephen A. and Skip or not, people tune in for their opinions. And if you follow a highly successful show, your show will do well too. That's the number one lesson of hits, okay? Anywhere out there, if you have one hit show and you follow it up, the next show is likely to be a hit too. This was like the lesson of NBC. You know when Seinfeld took off? It was when they put Seinfeld right after Cheers. And I always have to think about this now because you guys are so young. Seinfeld was a television show. It was really popular. There was this guy named Jerry Seinfeld. He was the title character. And he had a friend named Elaine, and he had a friend named Kramer, and he had a friend named George. And they all lived in an apartment building in New York City. For all you kiddos out there who weren't even born when this show went off the air. It was fantastic. Before that was Cheers. It was a show set inside of a bar in the Boston area. And also, they had other shows, such as Friends, which was a show about 3 girlfriends and 3 guy friends and the crazy hijinks they got into in New York City. All right? All of these things were the background. But yes, somebody just said HBO does this. Guess what? If you put a show on after Game of Thrones, it's going to fucking dominate. Doesn't matter what the show is. The show could be me standing there twirling my dick for 30 minutes. If you put it on after Game of Thrones, millions of people are going to watch it. I'm telling you right now, you put me on there with my dick, just standing there helicopter dicking over and over and over again for 30 minutes, millions of people are going to watch. And they're going to be like, man, this guy twirls his dick better than anybody's ever twirled his dick before. Because everybody only praises HBO shows, right? Like, HBO shows the greatest thing ever. You put on me right after, or somebody who's more entertaining, like Greg Oden, that can actually go helicopter dick. He could probably knock the camera over. You put on somebody like that, then everybody's going to watch. It's all about programming. And I think what happened with Michael and Jemele is they didn't give enough credit to the fact that people were there because they watched First Take, and people are lazy. And when they watch one show, they're likely to let the next show come on after it and watch it as well. It's why shows rate highly if they come right after big sporting events. We used to get a show every now and then at FS1, Thursday Night Football or Friday Night Football. And our show would come on right after a game, right after millions of people watched the game. And then they'd look at the ratings, they'd be like, wow, millions of people watched your show. And I'd be like, yeah, because it came on right after the football game ended. And everybody who was watching the football game just stayed in front of their television screen and they kept watching. It's flattering to me that millions of people might watch it, but the reason they're there has nothing to do with me and everything to do with the football game that was on in front of me. And that's why, like, for instance, SportsCenter, when it has a great lead-in, millions of people watch it. And that's why for the Super Bowl, it's such a big deal what show gets put on right after the Super Bowl. What was the show that came on right after the Super Bowl this year? I didn't keep watching because I came home to get my kids to bed and go to bed myself because I'm an old man. I have to get up so early. But what was the show that came on right after the Super Bowl this year? This Is Us, right? Everybody loves This Is Us. There's always somebody dying and people are always crying and everything else. That's what I know about This Is Us. Tens of millions of people watched it. They could have put on anything and tens of millions of people would have watched it because 100 million people watched the Super Bowl. So that's the way that has to happen. That's what happens. The best possible place for any show is right after the Super Bowl. So the lesson here is don't overrate yourself. Understand where your audience comes from. Now, there are certain people like me who built an audience out of nothing. I literally started at 0, and now we're in the millions. Like, I started writing online with 0 people. I've had some help, but for the most part, I've never really been, it's not like somebody's been like, oh, I'm going to make Clay Travis a star. I've had to just grind this shit out all by myself. So I'm not that cocky about that, as I would be if suddenly they put me on television and they made me a star because of the television network. For better or worse, I've created my own audience. And it's you guys. And I love all of you, even though many of you hate me. I am Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. We'll be live tomorrow, Friday edition, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you listen. Nearly 300 AM FM stations nationwide. We'll be breaking down the NBA. We'll be breaking down Jimmy Garoppolo's new contract. And we'll be having a lot of fun in general. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. You can go follow me on Twitter at Clay Travis. I'm doing it all by myself almost. Some good friends. Remember, Seinfeld, television show, used to be on. Check it out. If you haven't ever seen it before, it's pretty good. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. D-Bap, remember, I love you, and don't be pussies. See you tomorrow.